Hey, it's your Contrarian soul guide, Dawn, and this is Sovereignty Rising, the space where we stop fixing, start remembering, and finally come home to self. You've followed the path, you've built the life, you did what they said would make you happy, and now you're waking up every morning feeling heavy, disoriented, maybe like you're sleepwalking through a version of yourself that doesn't really fit anymore. This isn't burnout. This is your soul saying it's time to burn the blueprint. So what happens when the dream starts to crumble? Well, let's name it. There's a grief in realizing the life you worked so freaking hard to build no longer fits who you're becoming. You're not crazy. You're not flaky. You're evolving. But here's the kicker. We're conditioned to cling to stability, even when that stability is suffocating. We stay in the job, the brand, the identity, because it's familiar, even when it's draining. But here's the truth. You can't evolve and cling at the same time. There comes a moment when the soul says, let it go, burn it down, and begin again. Let me take you back. There was a moment, not really all that long ago, when everything looked fine on the outside. My business was working, my identity was clear. Everything seemed like it was pretty freaking awesome. And I felt numb, not just tired, not sad, but actually empty. It was a silence I couldn't seem to fill, not with certifications, more friends, more things, more travel. And I had to realize that I'd built something absolutely beautiful, but it wasn't for me anymore. I was performing a version of myself that I had outgrown. And it was freaking hard. Everything in my life was wrapped up in that. And the truth is unlike what I support people and help other people realize, is often we can make these little shifts, little pivots, and we can keep adjusting until we move into the right thing, the right version of ourselves. And sometimes we need to stop. Sometimes we actually need to walk away. And I was too scared to do it. It was 8 years ago. You've probably heard me talk about it before. And I didn't know how to stop the wheel I'd created. I had a phenomenal career. I was very well liked within it. My ego was extraordinarily well fed. Financially, I was doing really, really good, better than I ever thought possible in my life. I had a beautiful home. I had an amazing husband, 2.5 kids, as I always say, because I have a French bulldog, so he's like half a child. We traveled lots. We had nice vehicles. Everything from the outside looked like I had everything you could possibly want. And I had started to get really uncomfortable. I was feeling like something was off, something was missing, something wasn't working, and I couldn't figure it out. And the longer that I stayed in my job, the more resentful I started becoming. Resentful of my clients, resentful of my staff, just resentful, which was ridiculous because I also felt shame and guilt for not just being grateful for what I had. And my own coaches, my own mentors were telling me, like, you're supposed to be coaching. And I just couldn't wrap my head around leaving this career that I'd built up, that I was really good at, to just start again. And I mean, I'd started again several times. It wasn't like I'd never done that before. Yeah, it's a lot of work, but I don't actually mind work. So what was it? But my ego and my identities were really wrapped up. My relationships were involved in it. My friendships, my mentor was my boss. Like, there was just so many things tethering me to this. You know, my kids had a life that I needed to pay for. And so it was pretty much like, how am I going to do this without wrecking everything for everyone? And unfortunately, I kept asking for clarity and I kept asking for help. And finally, I was given it and the wheel was taken out of my hands. It's not that I wasn't in control of my life. It was that I abdicated control of my life. And one day on a rainy day, while driving back home from a meeting in our other location, I was a lighting specialist. And when I was driving back home on a rainy highway, a lady lost control of her vehicle and hit me. Now, on its own, I probably would have recovered within 6 weeks. Unfortunately, 6 days later, when I'd gotten called into work, when I was trying to rest because I had whiplash and a concussion, I got in a second accident, which is like being double bounced on a trampoline. The second one, I had full nervous system dysregulation, and my whole life went into disorder and chaos until within 6 months of me continuously trying to take breaks and go back to work, I was finally put on long-term disability. And at one point, the doctors told me that I'd never be okay again. I had permanent brain damage. Now, I was lucky. I had a lot of friends that were into different modalities of science. Some friends that were really into tech and into neuroscience and neuroplasticity. And they encouraged me to start reading Joe Dispenza and Bruce Lipton and Heart Math Institute and start looking outside of Western medicine so that I could see what was possible and I could understand that, I can heal myself and how to make that happen. And that began an entire 8 journey. It's been almost 8 years now, it'll be 8 years in October, of me asking the question, why do some people heal spontaneously and other people don't? Why do some people heal at all and some people don't? And so began this journey that would take me into the world of psychosomatics, psychoimmunology. So how does our thoughts and our beliefs interact and interfere with our body's ability to tap into its own wisdom? What's happening here? And so it really brought me to where we are today, where I am a partner in an integrative wellness clinic where it's East meets West meets tech, as well as on my own personal journey, the creation of practical spiritualism. This company that is all about self-sovereignty. It's about self-realization, the awareness of what is unconsciousness and consciousness. How do we unravel that? What does that look like in our lives, in everyday life? And also now recently have been given the task of not only helping people and guiding people towards their own self-sovereignty, but really the awakening and the rising of the divine feminine. And that the divine feminine is not in some of us, it's in all of us. It's not gender related. We all are a beautiful, unique harmonization of the divine feminine and the divine masculine. And through thousands of years, we've suppressed the divine feminine, over accentuated the masculine, which has lost its divinity due to the loss of the divine feminine, and we have the ego. And so in that suppression, it is imperative that we bring that back to life so that we can be in harmony with ourself once again. And when we find that harmony within ourself, then we can start to perpetuate that out into the world. And so my encouragement to you is, if you've got this place in your life where you are performing, you are gripping onto who you were, onto the way that you've been doing work, the way that you've been showing up in this world, I encourage you to soften the grip. I encourage you to let go of who you've been so that you can start to open and embrace who you're becoming. Because it is a lot more difficult when you don't make that choice, but you abdicate your power, and it gives you the feeling that you've lost all control, even though control in itself is an illusion. But it becomes the difference between creating our fate and being a fatalist, which is my experience, versus when we soften the grip and we co-create and we get to take that journey towards our destiny, which is the journey I'm on now. And I can promise you, one is a lot more painful than the other. And even though, and it was a lot more scary than the one I'm on now. It feels scarier, the one I'm on now, because I'm the one making the steps. But let me tell you, when all of a sudden you've lost absolutely everything, all you can think is, I just want to be better. I just want my life back. All of that stuff that I wasn't grateful for. I wasn't grateful for it. I still have my husband, my family, and all the rest. It just shifted careers. But it felt like I lost everything. And I needed to burn all of that because I just couldn't stop. I couldn't let go of what I had created. And much of it egoically on the stuff and the things. That was the hardest part for me, to make those shifts and pivots in maybe a more healthy way. That being said, what are some of the signs that we've outgrown the life that we build? Well, here's how it shows up. You dread the very thing you used to love. You procrastinate or sabotage in ways that don't make sense. You fantasize about walking away, even though it's working. You feel invisible in the roles you created. And under all of that, your soul is whispering, there's something more. There's something real. There's something honest. Who am I? So are you staying out of alignment because you're afraid to be seen without the mask? This was me. What is the ego but the mask? The identification with form, physical form, including our body and our things, our mental form, our intellect, our ideas, our beliefs, our experiences, our emotional form. Not only our emotions, but our memories. And so as we identify with all these things, I'm a survivor. I've had this experience. This is my, all these pieces. But on more was the mask I was wearing within business. It was a good mask. And for a long time, it fit me perfectly. And it was really hard just to let go of it. And so was I scared of being seen without the mask? Absolutely. I have spent 8 years of moving through a lot of beliefs and limiting beliefs about my value in this world, about people feeling I'm worthy of being heard, of being seen. There's a lot of pieces that come up that stem from being a really little girl, but have been accentuated all the way through up even to today. And so how we continue to invite or magnetize these people towards us, or an aspect of these people that will bring up our wounds. And so for myself, this last week, I was been working through this wound of almost a week and a half now, where it's become right to the surface, this wound of no one wants to hear what you have to say. And it comes from being asked a question and starting to answer and being cut off. Being asked a question again, start to answer, being cut off. It's played out many a times. And in the past, it's really made me angry, like lost my shit. And now I'm watching it happen and I'm just witnessing it. But as I'm witnessing it, I'm also getting to experience all this old grief and fear. With this mask, I was able to just show up as this and make everybody comfortable. Showing up as a contrarian spiritual teacher, even though that is my personality at the depths and the cores of it, it's very scary some days to come out without any armor. So is there a mask that you're afraid to be seen without it, where you feel vulnerable or stripped bare? I need you to understand this isn't a failure for us. It's an evolution. Burning it down doesn't mean destroying your life. It means releasing what's no longer true. It means trusting the void, the silence, the stillness. It means choosing alignment over approval. It means being brave enough to say, this was right for me then, but it isn't anymore. And it's okay to change and pivot. You don't owe your past self permanence. You owe your present self the truth. So how do we begin again? Well, I can promise you, you don't need a plan. You need a new permission. Here's what I want you to do. Name what no longer feels honest. Acknowledge what you're afraid to let go of and ask, what's the cost of staying here? I'm going to really encourage you to journal this, to just start letting it flow. Set a timer for 10 minutes. My coach has me doing morning pages. There's a group of us. We do morning pages every morning before we do our intention and visualization work for our future self. And then I do some of my spiritual work and I jump on Instagram, Facebook, and do a live with Mystical Mornings with Dawn. And I talk about whatever downloads I'm getting for the day, awarenesses, realizations that are coming up. And so in the writing portion, though, what I'm really finding, even though I resisted doing it, is when I free flow writing and just set a timer, it might start off with, I'm feeling anxious, or I don't know what to write. This is stupid. But in this case, we're going to start with these questions. And so then we can choose just one small act of self-honoring. And so by writing these pieces down and just starting to answer them, I'm going to give you permission. You can either put it into a journal you love or even just writing it on like a notebook so you can burn it afterwards. Nobody else has to see it. It's about you letting the flow happen. And when we write consistently, even if it starts going, after about 2 minutes, the ego or the mind shuts down and we get into flow. And then the answers start to come out. And we all of a sudden have this awareness, which is how I became aware that I have this old belief that I need to shut up and no one wants to hear what you have to say. And it was doing that writing that helped me become aware of it so that I could start working and getting it out. Whether that's using Body Code, NLP, those both my coaches use those tube chat products, Body Code, how I work. I mean, there's so many different ways that we can move and unwind these thought forms, these limiting beliefs from ourselves so that we can be free of them once and for all. And then once we've got that on paper, then we can choose that one real small act of self-honoring. So what's one little thing that you can do today? And if we keep asking that question, micro steps, what's one little thing, one real but small act of self-honoring that you can do today? And you do it again and again and again, and suddenly your course has changed. Burning it down doesn't have to be chaotic. It can be sacred. It can be ceremonial. It can be quiet, and it can be clear. And so if you're standing in the ashes of who you thought you had to be, you're not lost. You're actually free. This is where the real life begins, not the one built for applause, but the one anchored in presence. And if you want support walking through that fire, join me at the Awakening Circle on Facebook. It's where we rise. There's Soul Alchemy, my coaching course that is all about who am I and helping us really find our rebirth. So together, let it burn. Let it bless. Let it bring you home. If this brought something for you today, I invite you to subscribe, to like and follow, and really come and be here with us to join this revolution of self-realization. Share it with somebody that you love, that you think would benefit. And every Friday, we have our Sovereignty Rising podcast that drops. And I would love to see you there as well. I hope you have a magnificent day. I see the light in you, and it is brilliant. I can't wait for you to see it too.